Hey everyone, it's your girl Vidge with my co-host Shia, and we're here to bring you today's tea.
Today's episode was actually a suggestion from one of you guys, basically sharing an experience that you had, and we thought we'll do something a little bit different. So, we're just going to read you the email that was sent to us, and then we're basically going to discuss our experience of it and see if you can relate. So, Vidge, what was the email?
So basically, the email said, "Hi, recently I've been in a situation where I've helped a cousin who asked for help. This led to some members of the family blaming me for all the choices that cousin made, right down to the way she talks. I think a good decision topic is Tamil parents not taking responsibility for the actions of their children. In this particular situation, the mother has been unable to see her flaws are the reason her child made certain choices. I hope you take my suggestion on board."
Firstly, I actually hope when she says gets blamed for the way that she talks, that she's not being blamed for someone's accent, because that would be ridiculous. Just putting it out there. That genuinely was like the first thought across my head, just being like, is it the accent? Is it like the slang that she uses? Is it the colloquialism?
I think it's probably the language rather than the accent,
Could
because
you imagine? That
definitely
is
cannot control that.
hilarious. No, but I can imagine some people getting blamed for the parents not being able to understand it or something. But in general,
That's
it
true.
sounds like there's a few different talking points here, aside from the accent question mark around at the moment. So, how about we start with, in general, like parents not taking responsibility for their, you know, base in general, and
Hmm.
basically thinking that they're always right.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. And I think, in our kind of society, Tamil society and Asian society, I think it's quite common where the parents don't actually take responsibility because they'd rather shift the blame onto not even their own children, to other people's children, because that will make themselves feel better and look better if they don't actually take the blame themselves. Because if they do take the blame themselves, then that's going to question their character, their behavior, and then how their parents raised them. It's kind of like a knock-off effect
It sounds
in
like
that
a bit of
sense.
like self-defense, or like it's just being like really defensive, because I mean, if it's your child that's the problem, then it
Hmm.
becomes the way that you brought up your child, and
Yeah.
you almost fear the judgment that other people will get from, if you were for you being a bad parent.
Hmm.
It sounds
Yeah, no.
quite judgy to the child as well, though.
Yeah, I mean it is low key kind of judgy. I mean, if we really dissect this email and break it down, like she literally says that her cousin asked her for help and the family blamed her for the choices instead of the cousin. So essentially, those parents, her cousin's parents, aren't taking blame for how their kid is acting. They're shifting it onto the cousin, the person who wrote this email instead.
I've
Like,
definitely had that. I've
oh
definitely
yeah,
given
100%.
advice, or been there for someone, and I've definitely been thrown under the bus and
Hmm.
blamed for it in the end, which is why sometimes, guys, it is better to not get involved at all. But obviously, if they're your friends, like, you're going to want to give a helping hand. And sometimes, in all honesty, I've probably been blamed for things that I literally have nothing to do with.
Yeah, no, I completely agree as well. I just think that especially if it's your close friend and your cousin, you're going to help them out regardless of what people think. And I think it's inevitable with us. We know that at some point we are going to get blamed for other people's actions just because that's how society is. They just like to blame other people because it's much better than pointing the finger at other people rather than yourself.
Yeah, I also think that if you like really, really go into this,
Hmm.
there's an element of it which I feel like there is a bit where children don't feel comfortable talking to their parents. At least I'm talking about brown parents, or my experience of it, really. They
Hmm.
don't feel comfortable talking to their parents about everything. So you
Yeah.
wouldn't feel comfortable talking to your parents about about boyfriends and relationships, maybe, and other kind of like taboo topics within the community. So you lean more towards your friends, and you have a better communication with your friends with these kind of topics. And I feel as though
Hmm.
parents sometimes almost get a bit jealous or don't understand why the kids aren't communicating with them. There's a bit of miscommunication and a bit of friction that comes and arises from that kind of topic, I think. And I feel as though
Hmm.
if parents were better communicative with their
Hmm.
children and actually understood the environment better, we'll probably laugh and tell them about stupid things that we do with our friends and stuff, which probably will break a lot of these issues that we have.
Yeah, it comes down to your parenting style. I mean, we've touched upon it on a previous episode as well, how we said that, for us when we actually have kids, we're going to be much more have that better relationship and be more safe to an extent. But I know a lot of the brown parents aren't like that, and that's the reason why we end up turning to different people, because we can't turn to our parents because we don't feel comfortable in talking about these taboo topics. Like you said, it's a bit awkward. Like, you don't want to be talking about your boyfriends and all this and that, and trying to get advice from your parents when they're strict and things like that. So who else are you going to turn to? You're going to turn to your close mates or your cousins. So essentially they are going to blame that person you went to help for, because who else gave you that advice?
Yeah.
But they don't realize actually it comes down to the kid themselves, because they put themselves in that situation, hence they needed advice in the first place.
Yeah. And it's also like in general, like nowadays, the way that your parents think isn't necessarily how this generation thinks. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this generation, I mean, the example that comes to my own mind, for example, back in the days, they very much believed in like one person forever. And,
Yeah.
if you like someone, you like them forever. If you're in a relationship, you have to see it through, even if it's a really bad relationship, you kind of just put up with it. While I think in this day and age, people are much more open to the idea of really being respected and wanting to be
Mm-hmm.
in a loving relationship where they feel respected, where they feel safe. And I think people actually believe in more of the concept of dating someone nowadays versus
Yeah.
like having to be with someone forever. And I think that's something that I think those kind of like barriers between what is acceptable
Mm-hmm.
does make parents ultimately go, right, that's not how I brought you up, that's not the beliefs that I gave you, you've gone and acquired a whole new set of beliefs which we don't agree with, they're wrong, and therefore it's your friend's fault.
Yeah.
I think an element of it is it is that it's you've come from two exceedingly different worlds, and
Mm.
I think a part of it, they do probably struggle to understand why we've turned out the way we have, however
Yeah, no,
completely against what they wanted.
it's true, but we've got those not cultural differences. It's more like what can you call it? I know, like I know what you're saying. It's coming from different worlds, because obviously they've been born and raised in Sri Lanka or wherever it is that they've been born and raised, and we've been brought up in London. So obviously we've got different set of values, traditions, and all those kind of things. And obviously it's not going to agree to a certain extent. But that's where your parenting style comes in, because some parents who were born and raised in Sri Lanka and have come over here, they're still way more modern than some parents that have been born and raised here, because the modern parents are trying to hold on to the traditional values. Whereas the traditional parents that were born back home, they're trying to be a bit more modern because they know they need to change their ways.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. There is definitely that dynamic that I've seen differences between like people wanting to adapt to the new to like where they are versus people who are trying to cling on to what they had.
Hmm.
It's definitely really interesting actually.
Yeah, no, for sure. But
I
I
think
think it. Go no, go on.
no, no, go on.
I was just gonna say, just I think it comes down to breaking down these traditions and just putting your hands up and saying, yeah, you know what, like my kid did that, I will take blame for it, she will take blame for it, because it's her fault, rather than projecting it onto other people. That's where the matter lies. And I think with Tamil parents, we've mentioned it before, but they've got that whole pride and honor. And by accepting responsibility, it almost seems that they're tarnishing their own pride and honor, and people will at them and be like, oh, did you hear what this so and so person's kid did? And then that's it, like that. So that's the main issue, because they're holding so hard onto this pride and honor, they don't want to admit and or take responsibility. And the day that changes is the day that you know parents will stop projecting and putting blame onto other people, and they will stand up and be like, yeah, fine, it's my responsibility and I take full ownership for that. But until then, it's not going to happen.
No, it is a genuine growth thing, which I think perhaps they will move to,
Hmm.
hopefully.
Fingers crossed. But I mean, saying that, even in our generation, I mean, obviously with us, we really want to break these traditions down, and we're like, we don't want this to pass on to the next generation. But I know there are a few people in our generation that still like blame other people for the choices that they've made. And so realistically, is it going to probably stop in our generation? I don't think so. I think
I
it's going to
don't
keep
think so.
carrying on.
I think it'll probably carry on for a couple of generations because I think a part of it's also, as much as we say it's brown parents, that's a genuine generalization. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it is a lot to do with your character. And I think there are some characters in general
Mm-hmm.
that just won't take blame for themselves or for their kids,
Yeah.
and it will just be passed down like that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Especially in this email where she said the mother has been unable to see her flaws are the reason her child made certain choices, and what it comes down to is they are never going to admit they have flaws because the way they see it is, well, I have 50, 60 years of experience, so everything that I've learned in my life, it does not mean it's flaws. I'm telling you so you can learn from whatever I've learned from, but I have all the wisdom, and so you should listen to me. Even if they don't have the experience in whatever it is they're talking about, they will still be like, no, I still know better than you. So, of course, your child is going to
Like,
make
I feel a
certain
bit sorry for
choices.
the parents right now because do you know what? They do actually have like 50, 60 years worth of experience. And they
Hmm.
probably will as though that experience is going to waste. And they probably felt as though they've made so many mistakes in their lives. And they just want to be, they just don't want their kids to make the same mistakes. And they want to be able to provide that wisdom that's otherwise going to waste. And I think I do feel a bit sorry for them because I think the difference is that it is a completely different world to what they grew up in, and things aren't always the same. And I think our mentality and what we want and what our ambitions are a little bit different to what they essentially want and have wanted their whole life. So I do feel a bit bad for them as well. I completely get like sometimes why they're like, just listen to me. I
Yeah.
know everything. I can help you. Um, Bless them.
No, it's true, especially if they've been brought up that way as well. If their parents, if they've always listened to their parents, because I don't think like our parents' generation rebelled much either. So obviously, the way they've been brought up is how they're trying to raise us, and because we are kind of more modern, we have that different mentality, like you said, and we don't want to be the same way. But obviously, if you've been raised a certain way, that's what you're gonna know. That's what you're gonna follow. So to an extent, yeah, I like you said, I feel bad for them as well because that's all they know, and they're not doing it on purpose. That's just them. But I do think, it's 2020 now, they need to try and move with the times if they can.
Do you know what's really funny? My mum's
What?
actually, there's been so many times now. Right, there are certain situations my parents give me advice, and I'm just like, I understand why you're saying it. I do not agree with you. But there
Mm.
have obviously been times where they have obviously been right. I cannot
Hmm.
to this day admit it to them though. I just can't say it. Because that would
No.
mean because then every single other scenario would be like, we told you so last time and we were right.
Oh
And I don't
my
think I could
God.
ever live it down after that. Like my parents do genuinely believe that they are right in a lot of things, and I'm a child and I don't believe I don't know what I'm doing a lot of the time,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
100%.
fine. So yeah, which that's the reason now I can't admit when they are right.
No, I can completely relate. It's exactly the same in my household as well. Just never say they're right or they're wrong. Just don't even address it. It's much easier that way.
Yeah, ignore
But
it completely. If it ever
yeah,
comes up,
no,
walk out the
honestly.
room.
I'm
I
not
did do that
involved.
once.
Bye.
I did do that
Oh my
once. It
God,
was
did
for a
you?
really dumb. It was for a really dumb like thing that my dad was adamant, and this
Mm.
is nothing related to anything serious, guys. My dad was adamant
Hmm.
that ducks and geese didn't have teeth, and I
What?
go to the park. I've seen them hiss. I've seen those gnarly teeth in there.
Mm.
We had the longest argument. I called my brother who lives in a different house, got him into the argument, and my brother was like, "They have teeth." And then we were just like, "Do you know what? Let's just Google it." And I Googled it, and obviously they don't have teeth. And I literally just got up and walked away. And my dad was like, "What's the answer?" I was just like, "I'm going to sleep. I'm tired. We'll Google this tomorrow."
That's so funny. He obviously knew that you were wrong.
Obviously, but it's about never admitting it.
No,
I'm just walking
exactly.
away with my
I
head
agree.
held up.
Oh God. But you know what, actually, yeah, so what you said actually just gave me a light bulb moment. Like, even though this is between a family and like cousins and stuff, like this can very much happen in like real life, like jobs and like different sectors of life. Do
You're
you
gonna
know
have
do
to
you know what I mean?
you're gonna have to expand.
Like, so for example, like in my company, so obviously I do like pharmaceutical industry I work in. My manager, like we're all pretty good because we all have to work by ourselves, and then obviously as a team sometimes. we're actually quite good in taking responsibility for certain things, and my manager's quite good in being like, Vig, like you messed up on this, like you need to like take responsibility. And I'm like, yeah, fine, I put my hands up. But I do know in the company there are some people that just don't want to admit it's their fault, and they're like, no, actually it was the other rep's fault. No,
Oh my
actually it was
God.
that manager's fault.
Oh my God, Biz, you do not work in a corporate environment. Maybe I just think that maybe I've just put it down as a norm that it didn't even hit me when you said that actually. Um, I work in a pretty competitive in a pretty competitive place, and while I've been quite fortunate with some of my managers, I have
Hmm.
actually had a manager before who has literally thrown me under the bus.
Wow.
And in general, you do actually find teams and squads who, instead of taking any amount of blame for themselves, the easiest thing to do is actually to throw another team under the bus and to
Mm,
finger point and to blame it on another person, because you don't want to be the one responsible for a large amount of money going down the drain for something not working. It can impact your career development, and it's all those negative connotations that make people like literally throw other people under the bus.
yeah, for sure.
And it's incredibly frustrating if you're that team who that happens to.
Hmm.
And I hugely respect that the person who sent the email probably has similar feelings to that, even though they're completely different like situations. One's a family and one's a complete like corporate situation. And I imagine that probably happens outside of corporate as well. I mean, I only have done corporate, so
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, like I can think of different situations where this has happened in, like, for example, say if you're dating someone and you met this person through a mutual friend, like automatically it's that person's fault.
when the parents find out, oh
Yeah.
bless them. I know so many people who are now met over like Tinder and social media, but it's not exactly like a cool thing to do to go to your parents and be like, "Yeah, I met them on Tinder. What's Tinder?" A
Yeah.
dating site where you just randomly meet up with people who you don't really know and have no connection with. Can't
Oh
see
my
that
God.
going down well. So I know a lot of people
Nope.
who have said that it was the mutual friend. And do you know what's
Hmm.
really funny? If the parents end up liking the person that you kind of like brought in,
Yeah.
the mutual friend, like you can make, they'll might probably make like jokes about it. But
Yeah.
if they do not like the person that you've brought home, do you know who gets blamed a lot of the time?
Oh God.
It's the
Mutual
person
friend.
who the poor mutual friend who apparently introduced them when sometimes they just have nothing to do with it. They just happen to know both
Yeah.
people and happen to be in the same room, maybe.
It's so peak. I feel so sorry for that mutual friend when I hear about relationships like that, because it's just like the mutual friend just introduced you guys, didn't tell you how to run your relationship. Like, they weren't going to know if it was going to be a good thing or a bad thing. Like, why are you blaming them? Like, it makes two people to have a relationship, not one person.
Yeah, and the mutual definitely didn't force you to date them. That was both of your choices, not them. But it's ridiculous because
Yeah.
I know that a lot of parents are just like, oh, if it wasn't for that her or him introducing you, you wouldn't be together.
Mm, like, it was bound to happen, mate. But you know what's even more funny? Like, coming from that as well, is that that mutual friend, when the parents go up to them and be like, okay, you knew that she was dating someone, or he or she was dating someone, you introduced them, why didn't you tell us?
I've had this, but I've also
It's so
had,
annoying.
why didn't you tell me, and why didn't you
Yeah.
tell her not to?
Oh my God, that's even worse. It's like,
Yeah.
sorry, am I her mum now?
Also, I didn't even introduce them. Sorry, it's not that I introduced them. I just happened to know both of them.
Oh,
That was
that's
it.
more awkward.
And I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't speak to you that often for me to come running to you to tell you that your daughter's dating someone. It's also
But
not
it's
my
not even
place.
that. Yeah, it's not your place. Like, why are you like that's your friend? You're not gonna cross her and be like, yeah, you know what? Let me go and tell your mum and dad that you're dating someone, just so that my back is covered and they don't come for me. Like,
Why?
if this goes wrong.
Yeah, your relationship should have nothing to do with your friend.
Yeah,
It
like,
just shouldn't.
but it's a prime example of how the blame is being shifted to the friend instead of the kid.
Yeah. Do you know, there's so many different examples this happens though. I can think of one very popular one, which is like drinking.
Oh my
If
God,
you
yeah.
decide to drink, your parents will blame the friends who influenced you.
It's true. It's more awkward as well if the parents don't drink,
Oh yeah,
because who did you pick it up from? Your friends. That's a very hard one to get out of, to be fair.
that is. But like, I think this then comes down to the fact that what the parents consider to be normal, acceptable, and good is
Mm.
completely different to what we now accept as normal. Not good, but acceptable, reasonable, normal.
Yeah, no, it's true. That's a fair point. But you know what frustrates? Can I even speak English? You know what frustrates me about the whole drinking thing is because I know you're gonna get vexed, but I'm just gonna say it. But
Company.
you know, you know how like it's like boys can drink but girls can't because they're a
Oh,
girl.
let's yeah, different topic. We'll discuss as another podcast. I won't
We won't go
continue.
into it, but I'm going to just make a point and say that, you know, it why is it like if the girl is drinking, like why is it an issue if she's drinking? Like I just don't understand in 2020 why it's still a thing for like drinking, especially now. Like every like loads of girls drink. Like even the other day, right? I went out for a picnic, and like, I went out with my mate, and we like had beers, and I brought like we had two beers in the basket that I accidentally left. So I was like, let me pop them into the fridge. And I walked past my dad and I was holding the beers and he went, why do you have beers in your hand? And I was like, oh, because we were drinking them, but we like this is the leftover. And he was like, but why are you drinking beer? Beer is a man's drink. And I was like, I was like, what? I was like, wait, what do you mean? And then he was like, girls don't drink beer though. That what, like that's not a lady drink. And I said, well, wine is a girl's drink. Why do you drink it then?
Oh my God.
He was just like, well, it's not good. It doesn't look good on the girl if they drink beer. Like, no disrespect to my dad. That's a very common thing. Like, even when I go to family parties, I would never ever like pick up a beer because I just wouldn't. Because I know all the uncles would be like, what are you doing? Like, I would probably like get a wine. But like, I have so many friends that are girls that drink beer. And I know that if we were to do that, where like other family members were, they would all give us dirty looks and be like, look how they've been raised.
I mean, weird. You're lucky enough that you can even hold anything in your hand. There are some people who can't do that.
True. That is very true. Yes, I will give points to my parents for that. But no, it's true. But it's just like I don't know. It's just like at the end of the day, just let the girl do what they want to do. Like if it's, equality and all of that. Just if they want to drink, let them drink. Like it's not the friend's fault. It's their fault.
It
They
is their
wanted to
fault.
drink.
Do you know what's really funny though? So like just slightly touching on the whole guy girl topic because I clearly can't let it go that easily if we've mentioned it. I did actually ask a couple of adults why they thought that essentially and what their reasoning was behind it. And this is what really got to me. So it was essentially that, as when you drink, you become a little bit merry, you're basically not as in control as you are, and
Hmm.
anything can happen. And predominantly why anything can happen, they're talking about, getting with a guy or like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just, they kind of do it, they kind of said it in a sense that you shouldn't do it because, so that you are in full control and that you can protect yourself. And then I was like, but shouldn't we be teaching the guys then to not drink so that they don't lose themselves and do
Mm.
something stupid?
Yeah.
That needs to be taught to both sides, and that stumped them because they'd never even considered it that way. Because
No, they wouldn't.
girls shouldn't drink to protect herself from anything like that doing because you can't trust boys, you don't know what they're like, and what anything that they can do.
Girls are
Should
vulnerable.
Yeah, shouldn't we be teaching our males the exact same thing and not do it so that you don't do those actions? It's
Yeah,
a
we should.
two-way street. It's always a two-way street, but they don't see it that way because yeah. Anyway,
But
that's all I wanted to say. I've said it
no,
now.
but it's a valid point though. And you know what? It goes back to also like prior generations, like our grandma and granddads were drinking together. So when on earth did was the point where it stopped and it was actually like, no, 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 girls shouldn't drink anymore, it's just a guy's thing. Like when did that happen? Because it was cool when our grandma and grandpa were smoking and drinking together, but somehow the next generation it got lost and it was like, no, actually girls shouldn't drink because that's not a girl lady thing to do. Like,
Oh,
why? When did that happen?
I don't know this. You know what? You're so right. It was totally acceptable. There are so many grandmas and granddads who like have a spiff outside in their house. have
Legit.
a little drink together. Do you know what? I just think that's like the perfect little way to like, be old with your other half.
Yeah, it's
It's
sick.
cute.
Why not?
I'm now wondering when on earth did it get filtered out to become unacceptable? Was it when
Yeah.
generations moved here? Because I don't think so. Because I know that concept still exists with generations
Back home.
back home
Yeah.
as well. So I literally don't know. If anyone has any idea or insights into this, please email us, DM us, throw it
Yeah.
our way. I've literally got my head racing right now with so many different thoughts.
It's so annoying. It makes no sense to me, honestly. I don't get it. But yeah, that's another common situation. But do you know what is another one? Is staying out late.
Oh my
It
god.
means you're hanging around with the wrong crowd.
Yes. I got that so often, because I don't actually stay out that late. But when I started to, especially, and people, if you are young, and I'm talking like 16, 17, if you're gonna
Yeah.
start rebelling, do it when you're 16, 17, guys. Don't start doing it when you're like 25, 26, like I did. The later you rebel, the more annoying it gets for them. Because at least at 16, by the time you hit like 20s and you're an actual adult, they're just like, oh, it's fine. But
They're
when you
used to
hit it
it. Yeah.
later, they're just like, what are you doing with your life? You're ruining your life. So, top tip from me, if you're gonna rebel, do it when you're earlier. This is when people start playing their parents' podcast, being like, she told me to. And then I will get blamed.
You know that girl Shia? Yeah, yeah. She told me to.
Do you know
I'm not
what?
involved, guys. Don't mention my name. Thanks.
Oh, this will get to you. So I actually remember another situation which I was blamed for, which I literally don't understand today. So
Hmm.
you know how and for people who don't know, I essentially did medicine for a year, failed my exam, and then I switched courses to something that I preferred. I didn't really enjoy medicine and like medicine, so I basically left and started to do mathematics instead. Um,
Hmm.
and I actually built a really good career out of mathematics, and I'm actually very, very happy. I don't miss medicine at all, and I think it's one of the best decisions I made because it wasn't right for me.
You're a boss.
Thanks, man. So I had I had a student who used me as an example to their parents around
Mm.
quitting medicine, quit, and didn't do so well in the other field. And
Oh,
guess
Jesus.
whose fault it was?
Yours.
Mine. And I was just
That's
like,
really
I
awkward.
didn't I had no conversation with your child. I didn't tell them to quit. I didn't tell them to take up another subject. I didn't tell them to, not pay attention in university or anything like that. None of it was
Mm.
my fault. But yeah, I was the reason. I was so baffled by this.
Oh my God. That is legit such a perfect example of like coming from the email, like very similar situation. Like the fact that that person, she obviously was too shook, and which is why she shifted the blame on you. And then the parents were like, well, this doesn't sound like it would be in her character because obviously they raised her a certain way. So then who else are they going to blame? You.
I was the bad example. Yeah.
Bad influence here.
Honestly, I swear after that I was actually a little bit paranoid that people parents didn't want me hanging out with their kids in case I gave them the wrong influence around
Jesus.
quitting their job and starting to do a subject that they liked instead of one that they would made them miserable. Um,
That's
Hilarious.
ridiculous.
It is absolutely
It's so
ridiculous.
dumb. I can't. Oh my God. Well, I've got one last situation for you, but failing your exam, and the reason you failed your exam is because you're on the phone all the time talking to your friends. And the reason you failed is because of your phone and your friends.
Oh my God. Do you know what? My phone is so poor. It gets blamed for everything. It gets blamed for my headaches. It gets blamed for me walking into things. It's not the phone's fault that I walk into things. It's my fault that I'm clumsy as hell. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, my phone gets blamed for absolutely everything. And my friends, bless them, on the other side of the phone do get a bit of it as well.
Yeah, of course. It's the sole cause of why everything that goes wrong in your life, it's due to your phone. Nothing else, due to
Yep.
your phone. Like
Yep.
I don't know. I don't get it.
Guys, send us your, the different things that your phone get blamed for as well in your household, because I'm sure we can gather a little story together just from that alone, with the many different examples that we could get for your phone being blamed for ridiculous reasons.
honestly, and we'll post it on our Instagram so you guys can laugh with us.
Yes.
But honestly, yeah, I don't even know. And that also comes down to not even the fact that we didn't study, but it's because your friends were distracting you and they're a bad influence.
Yeah, not because you're the queen of procrastination.
Yeah, no. Not because your four walls, even though they're dry, they look somehow interesting when you're studying.
Yep.
You know what? Parents will never take blame, and it's just you just got to learn to figure out boundaries with other people. I mean, even though this is going out to that girl who sent us the email, even though she's your cousin, like you should tell your cousin she needs to stand up for herself to her family and be like, why are you blaming my cousin? Like, blame me. Like, I'm the one that made these choices. I'm the one that talks the way I talk. She didn't tell me to talk like this. Like, she essentially just needs to stand up to her parents, because realistically, the parents will never take blame unless she stands up for herself, because she's allowing this to happen essentially, and that's why it's happening.
Yeah, no, I genuinely think that's probably the best advice. Not that we're here to give advice, guys. We're here to just
No.
discuss things. But I genuinely do think that that's actually really good advice, because that's essentially what I started doing to actually see a shift. Is
Mm-hmm.
whenever they blamed anyone at all or brought other people into the conversation who didn't need to be in the conversation, I
Mm-hmm.
literally took them out straight away, and I refused to have a conversation if they got brought in. And it's
Yeah.
it's just being really, really strict with your parents about what you tolerate, and
Yeah.
don't allow them to blame someone else, and just own up to it yourself. Just be like, if it was your fault, don't say it was a mutual. Just go, yeah, it was me.
Yeah, because if you bring that friend in, I'm telling you now, you ain't gonna be friends, because your parents will make sure of that.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep hold on to that friend, don't mention them.
And just
Long
don't throw
story
anyone
cut
else
short.
on the bus in general. I mean, just don't.
Yeah.
Not
No,
saying that anyone
honestly.
in this situation did. We're just giving general advice here.
Yeah. And that's this is our opinions, by the way, guys. Hope you don't take offense to it. Like, there's no evidence or backbone to what we're saying. This is just what we think, and experiences that we've had has made us think like this. So yeah, you
Yeah,
know.
and we're also just spitballing here. This is literally just thoughts that come into our heads straight away. This isn't scripted or drafted or anything. We just wanted to have a really raw conversation about
Mhm.
this.
Hence we are called Open Book.
Yes.
But honestly, no. Thank you for sending in your suggestion. It's been really nice that it's actually been someone that's been listening to our podcast send something in rather than us coming up with like a topic. So if you guys like this kind of episodes, like where the listeners give a suggestion, then please feel free to keep sending us more in. You can send it to our email openbookvs@gmail.com, or DM us at openbookvs, or you could DM us separately. Shia, what's your gram?
Mine is Shia Ventures, so that's Hiyaaventures. No, nothing in between. It's just one word. What's
And
yours?
mine is VIJVLOGS, Vig Vlogs. Nice and short. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. And if you've got any further suggestions or thoughts, please feel free to use the hashtag OpenBookVS so we can get involved with the conversation.
Yeah, and if you want to be kept anonymous or any with anything that you send us, we will absolutely keep you anonymous.
Yeah, for sure.
Bye, guys.
Bye.